Hello everyone, Empress here, coming at you with the bane of my existence. At the risk of sounding like a broken record at this point, I don't do studies. I never do studies. Because I've grown up thinking I suck at art and it's not my job, it's just a hobby, and studies are a pain and I'll never get anything right, so why even try? But recently I started a YouTube channel, like a dumbass, then got all dramatic about self-improvement and embracing failure, so now here I am, about to face my worst fears. I was super nervous starting this page because first of all, I can't erase anything. Second, because this is a fountain pen that I'm using, it's not like other ballpoint pens where using less pressure would give me softer lines. All the lines are exactly the same width with a fountain pen like this. So that means that there is no way for me to draw guidelines without them showing on the final product. So by forcing myself to not erase, I need to take the time to measure each stroke and make sure they look right from the start. But of course, mistakes happen all the time, like you see here on this face, which is way too tilted. I try to fix it, but it's obviously not perfect. I just tell myself if they're disproportionate, well, it'll just be part of the course, and it can't be worse than the first page anyways, so it's all a learning experience. The good thing about drawing without erasing is that I remember the strokes I laid down, so after I am done drawing, I can compare it with the reference photo and find out where I went wrong. Was it the left eye that was too crooked, which then forced me to correct everything else? Or should I have started with the right side of the face? Or if I had measured the distance between the nose and lips correctly, then the chin wouldn't have looked so elongated and stuff like that. It makes it easier for me to look back and see where I can improve next, where I need to pay the most attention. So right now, looking at the line art, I know none of them look exactly right when compared to the reference photos, which I found on Pinterest, by the way. They're linked in the description below. The main problem, I think, is the overall proportion of the face, and obviously the perspective. Because I can't draw guidelines, I need to imagine the entire piece in my head, then project it onto the page. I think it's a skill that longtime artists learn through hours, if not years, of practice. They just know how the lines flow from drawing hundreds, if not thousands, of these faces. I'm only just starting out, so hopefully it will all come to me a bit more naturally by the end of the sketchbook. Alright, well, here's the line art. It's done. And here we go, time to watercolor. I think this process is even more daunting than the line art. First of all, I bought this Strathmore mixed media sketchbook mainly to practice drawing, not painting, which is why the quality of the paper is not entirely suitable for using watercolors. It's not the worst, of course, especially if I'm only doing a light wash like I did on the previous page, which you can watch. There's a link on the upper right corner to the video. But since this is the human face, there are a lot more subtleties, and since I cannot do heavy washes without the pages buckling, I wasn't too sure how to proceed. I had to make something work without resorting to using too many washes. I thought the solution was to use softer colors for a more pastel look, but as you will see by the end of this video, I couldn't quite get the values right. And the overall piece looks like it has too much contrast for a pastel look while also not having enough contrast to mimic the reference photo. Colors have always been a huge struggle for me. I just cannot get anything right. I don't have a natural eye for it either. I used to do a lot of digital art, but I found that I had an easier time matching things using traditional medium, because I was restricted to the paints I had, whereas in digital drawing, I had to work with millions upon millions of hues. It's easier to get things right when you are working with a limited palette, which only has colors you know will mix well together. For this piece, the main colors I used are ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, quinacridone red, Hansa yellow, gamboge, naphthol red, quinacridone rose, cobalt blue, turquoise, cobalt teal, indigo, and sepia. The colors are a mix of Amgram and Winsor & Newton paints. All colors are listed in the description. I need to keep reminding myself watercolors dry lighter than when you first lay them down. But since it's a transparent medium, I'm always scared of using too much pigment, so my first washes tend to be way too light. You can probably see here that I could have easily gone a few shades darker for everything. But my mentality has always been that I can keep adding more pigment if I go too light. The problem here, however, is that I don't want to spend hours doing just a few studies, and I also can't continue adding layers since this paper isn't appropriate for heavy washes. I'm not entirely sure what the sizing of this paper is. You can see that the black turtleneck on the blonde girl has all kinds of blooms and backgrounds. While this looks quite nice in retrospect, it isn't something I intended to happen, and it wouldn't have happened if I had drawn this on high quality, 100% cotton watercolor paper. So anyways, I'm still debating what to do with future pages. Should I just do mainly line art with ink without using watercolors, or should I still force myself to practice despite the drawbacks of the paper? Let me know if you have any suggestions in the comments. At this point, I sort of realized I couldn't keep going with watercolors because I've already added enough water to the page and not achieved the result I wanted. I think I might in the future swap out the color Gouache, which is semi-opaque, for a transparent orange. I bought these colors when I first started using watercolors and have not changed them since. At the time, I didn't know how to avoid semi-opaque colors. I thought, if it was marketed as watercolors, then it must be transparent. That was not the case. But of course, I'm not throwing the tube of paint out. I still have more than 3/4 of it left. I will just have to use it with my gouache paints instead. Alright, so the watercolor face is about done. It's looking okay, not the best. And I'm about to dish out the gouache. Thank you for staying until the end. Looking back, I think I did decently well, though there's definitely room for improvement, which I hope will be at least a little bit noticeable by the time I'm done filling this sketchbook. Anyhoot, thank you all once more for all the encouraging comments you've left me. Let me know if you have any suggestions, like and subscribe and all that jazz, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye!